Michael Burry is known to be the kind of person who does not shy away from risking his reputation by making wild economic predictions. For example, in 2006 and 2007, his investors laughed at him for predicting the collapse of the US housing market, but in 2008, he was proven 100% correct in his predictions. In February 2021, when the latest reported inflation rate in the United States was less than 2%, he forecasted a big spike in inflation. Fast forward to today, and he was once again correct. The largest speculative bubble in history of all things was forecasted by him in June 2021. The value of equities and cryptocurrencies plummeted throughout the year 2022. A white-collar-led recession was forecasted by him in September 2022. And here we are, with major layoffs across the IT sector. The guy obviously has a tendency for getting things right, and he's just come up with another huge, bold prediction. If this latest prediction comes true, it might have far-reaching economic consequences, well beyond anything he has discussed in the past few years. Welcome to Investing Path, and for today's video, we will be finding out what Burry has predicted for the 2023 stock market. But before we continue, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe, and hit the bell button as well to stay updated for more of our uploads. Now, let's find out what Michael Burry has in store for us. Over the past month or so, Michael Burry has maintained his Twitter rampage, and oddly, it appears that he is not deleting his tweets anymore, at least for the time being. To make things even simpler for us going forward, Burry gave us an update on the economic climate we can expect to see in the coming years on January 2nd, saying, "Inflation peaked, but it is not the last peak of the cycle. We are likely going to see CPI lower, possibly negative in the second half of 2023, and the US in recession. The Fed will cut and the government will stimulate, and we will have another inflation spike." Now basically what Burry is predicting is that the current downtrend in inflation we are seeing is simply the end of a first wave of inflation, and that over the next few years, we will likely see more waves of inflation, because the Fed rates could be high enough to trigger a recession if they are kept there. But they need to be kept high if they are to be effective in stifling inflation. It is the same scenario that played out in 1970s, which is why this possibility strikes fear in the hearts of investors. But first, we will give you a background to at least give you an idea of what is going on. In response, the Federal Reserve has increased interest rates in an effort to slow the economy by making it more difficult for consumers and businesses to obtain credit. There are two bad options here: letting inflation run wild and making everything more and more unaffordable, or letting the economy slow down and putting everyone under more financial pressure. Or would you rather see inflation subside after interest rates have been raised? The latter course of action is the one that has proven most effective in the past, as seen by the fact that inflation has been declining since the Federal Reserve raised interest rates to 4.5% in 2022. However, here's the thing: individuals really do suffer during periods of high interest rates. Now, interest rates aren't particularly high right now, but they're expected to continue rising through 2023. And what high interest rates mean for the people is that, mortgages and personal loans eat up more and more of their disposable income until they have no money left over to spend on other things. Keeping interest rates high for an extended period of time is not a popular choice, and as a result, governments often give it to public pressure to bring them down since they know that doing so makes voters happier. And furthermore, the president actually nominates the chair of the Federal Reserve, so there is political pressure for rates to be lowered. However, if this is done prematurely, it can lead to inflation ramping back up, and then the financial pain you inflicted trying to stop inflation is for naught, and you are back to square one. This is precisely what happened in the 1970s. The effective federal funds rate peaked at 9% in 1970, and inflation surpassed 5% the following year. After inflation dropped to 3%, the Fed lowered interest rates again, only to see it spike to 11% in 1974. Inflation then fell to 6% in 1976, at which point the Fed figured, inflation's going away now. That's what Michael Burry sees coming in the next several years for the United States. He doesn't think we've learned our lesson. Calming inflation, stable but high interest rates, a deepening recession, widespread hardship, and political pressure on the Federal Reserve to ease monetary policy in an effort to revive the economy will lead to a new round of inflation. And you might think Burry is a loose cannon with such a bold prediction, but interestingly, he isn't the only famous super investor to express this opinion. One very notable person you will definitely know who also believes the Fed's willpower will not be strong enough to conquer inflation is Charlie Munger. He predicted that it was a terrible economic downturn when Volcker raised the prime rate to 20% in the late 1970s, and the government was only paying 15% on its government bonds at that time. We hope very much that we are not returning to that place of prolonged suffering. With the benefit of hindsight, we think it was a good thing that Volcker did that, but we also believe that circumstances under which he was able to do so were quite uncommon. We doubt that today's politicians would be as receptive to a fresh Volcker taking such a hard line on the economy and bringing on a recession. Since this is the case, we anticipate that the fresh problems will be distinct from the old ones. So, given with what happened in the past, it is clear that we shouldn't ease up on anything, and it is evident that the Federal Reserve is well aware of what transpired throughout the 1970s and is dedicated to avoiding a repeat performance. However, they may be trying to come up with a solution, but whether they actually follow through is another question entirely. Thus, Michael Burry's opinion is still very true even while the Fed says all this stuff. And that's what Charlie Munger and Michael Burry are saying. Sure, the Fed wants to get inflation back down to 2 or 3%, and that would be great. But if they have to keep raising and raising interest rates, and they cause a nasty recession, and a lot of Americans lose their jobs and can't afford their mortgages, will there be the political willpower to keep going and properly get inflation under control? Or will there be too much political pressure to loosen monetary policy? An example, lower interest rates and print money to keep the people happy. According to Burry, we are likely to see the CPI lower potentially negative in the second half of 2023, and the US in recession by any definition. If the Fed reduces interest rates, the government stimulates, also known as prints money, and inflation rises again. Indeed, that is Michael Burry's most recent prediction, and it fits with his other tweets in a very satisfying way. After the stock market fell 20% in late June, Burry declared, "I think we are just halfway there." And on September 7, he reiterated, "No, we have not struck the bottom yet." And it appears that his lack of faith in the Federal Reserve is the primary reason why he is so pessimistic for the foreseeable future. However, please share your thoughts in the comment box below if you think the Fed has the intestinal fortitude to finally stomp out inflation in 2023. What about Michael Burry's forecast in bringing back the disco era of the 70s? The question is, how sticky inflation will be. Anyway, that's all we have for you here in Investing Path. We thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed watching this one, please don't hesitate to give this video a like and subscribe. And if you'd like to see more of our future uploads, then hit the bell button to stay updated for our content on personal financing and investments. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.